What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of No Huddle Necessary. That is right. It is Wednesday, the best time of the week, where we here at Nuts and Bolts Sports get all of our writers, some friends of the show, and whatnot to come in and talk about everything football, all of the latest and all of the biggest news coming out. Obviously, we have a ton to talk about this week. John Gruden, the latest with the Raiders and everything. We're going to get into all of that this week or today, but let's go ahead and bring in our guest, our panel. First up, Mr. George Lopez. Bring you in. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, Dominic, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me on tonight.
Very good, man. I'm doing good. Glad to have you on. Mr. Lopez making his debut for this season. First time on the show this season. Glad to have him on. Next up, a familiar face. He was here not too long ago. A dear friend of mine and fellow Georgia State alumni, Mr. Malik Brown. How are you doing today?
Feeling good, living better, brother. Thank you for having me on again.
Absolutely. Listen, man, loved having you on last time. Super happy to have you on this time. Maybe we can get you the first dub. Came close last time. We'll see what happens. And another individual making his debut on the show this time around, Mr. Zak Noble. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Happy to be here, guys.
Awesome. Glad to have you on. Zach has been doing daddy duty, so he's been a little time challenge with us, but he's been awesome working through it. Glad to have him on. How is everybody feeling, though? How are we all feeling today?
Good, man.
Feeling good. Yeah.
All righty, cool. Well, with all of that being said, like I said, let's go ahead and start off with the big topic. Let's get into the first quarter. Alrighty, so obviously we have to address the elephant in the room. That is the Raiders situation with John Gruden. A lot of the emails that originally stemmed from an investigation into the Washington football team and their dealings with some of the things they had going on with the previous regime. Found some information about John Gruden, some emails from 2011 that spanned all the way up to 2018, where he used homophobic slurs, racist agendas and things like that. Talked poorly about the commissioner, some of the anti, I guess, concussion protocol type deals. A lot of stuff came out of this, and then obviously John Gruden basically was forced to resign this past Monday. George, we're going to start with you. How deep is this going to go, and also where do the Raiders go from here?
Well, I think it's going to go very deep. We don't know who else was involved in these emails. We don't know what was replied to John Gruden's emails. So I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of stuff's going to come out. Like you said, they weren't even investigating John Gruden. This just happened. They stumbled across these emails. And, you got to be thankful that the Washington football team was being investigated. Otherwise, we never would have heard of any of this stuff. Going forward, the Raiders, they're going to have to circle the wagons. As a team, they're going to have to rally around each other. We're going to need to see Derek Carr step up and say, you know what? I got you. Get on my back. I'm going to carry this team forward. And, I know Malik today in a press conference, he really didn't say a whole lot other than he said he felt for John Gruden and his family, but he also emphasized that every person is responsible for their own actions. There are consequences to it. So I'm glad he did say that. But I do think that there's one thing that's missing regarding the Raiders is the owner. Mark Davis has not said anything publicly other than saying, ask the NFL. They have all the answers. I think that was a tremendous mistake. He needed to speak out regarding what happened with John Gruden. He needed to be in the forefront of that, and he chose not to. And I think that was a huge mistake on his part.
Yeah, the comments from the owner were very laissez-faire, kind of, basically like it's not my place to speak on it. It was a very interesting stance that he took. Zach, how do you feel about this? How deep is this going to go? Where do the Raiders go from here?
Yeah, I think George said it very well. I mean, this is completely out of the blue, but I think it's just going to trickle down. I think a lot of people are going to be impacted throughout the whole NFL, and I just think a lot of people that might have had sketchy locker rooms or just anything random will be, I mean, come to light. I think a lot of other ownership groups and I don't know, just management in general that were associated with John Gruden are going to be really under the radar here. And I think there's going to be a lot popping up throughout the entire league. And I think they're just going to try to do a complete cleanse here from all the old bad mindsets and just bad blood that's in the league. But as for the team, I think I don't know much about this interim head coach. I really don't. I think he's got to be decent. I mean, the Raiders have been doing pretty well overall. I do like what they have going offensively. So at the end of the day, as long as Derek Carr can get his stuff right and rally the troops, I think it could motivate him going forward after a bad 2-game skid here.
All right. And Malik, how about you? How deep is this going to go? What's next for the Raiders? How are you feeling?
Man, it's pretty disgusting just to even think about it. Like, when I first heard the story about like everything about John Gruden, it's funny. My grandma actually told me like on Sunday night, and because I hadn't heard anything about it until Monday when it really got like serious when they released what he was saying. And it's crazy because once he was telling me about it, I was like, they're not going to do anything. And that's where we have gotten to, like, as a society, like, and as the NFL in general, like, the past 12 months and maybe more than 12 months, like, we were supposed to make progress in the league as far as, we have these things on the field saying it takes all of us, the Black Lives Matter, like all of this stuff. And it kind of feels like with this move, the NFL is taking a step back because it seems like some of these people may have already known about these emails, and who knows, like they just randomly came across these emails. They weren't even looking for John Gruden's emails, but they randomly came across it. Just think about how you can randomly come across so many other things that's been going on or kept under the rug or whatnot. Like, I feel like aside from the Raiders, we have to look at the NFL as a whole, and we have to make change there. We thought we made change, but apparently we have not. So, and it's funny, I was listening to ESPN earlier, and they were talking about it, and Mark Spears was like, the first thing you got to do is you have to make the NFL look like the world as far as minorities, like everybody. Right now, it doesn't like the world. It's a lot of the same people running the same. These 32 organizations. We need some type of minorities. We need diversity. That's where we have to start first. As far as the Raiders, I mean, like Mark Davis, he really didn't do a good job of pressing the issue or whatnot. So it's really messy from the NFL. Hopefully the Raiders can get back on track. They were doing good earlier in the season. 3-0, they dropped the last two. So I don't know how that's going to affect them. And also, you have an openly gay player on the team as well. So you have to confront that issue as well. You have to, let the teammate know that you're there for them, support them and whatnot. So it's a really messy situation, man.
Yeah, and I believe I saw a report today that Carl Nassib was away from the team for these last couple of days, just kind of giving himself a moment to really take in everything that happened. But yeah, I agree with all of this, and I like the point that you brought up about the NFL, about making change. I think this unfortunately, it basically kind of reinforces the idea that a lot of people have, that a lot of the things that the NFL does is just window dressing, that it's all for an act, that this is something that you do because you kind of have to, right? Because the day and age that we live, you're kind of forced to do it, but you don't really mean it. And when you have situations like this where you have, a head coach, and granted, John Gruden was not a head coach when he was making these emails and things like that. He was not a part of, an NFL team, but there were, other GMs, high-ranking officials that were on teams that were allegedly in this thread. So it is a poor reflection on the NFL. I will say this, as far as the Raiders moving forward, I don't think there's anyone who's happy with this situation. But if there's anyone who might feel a little relieved, it is Mike Mayock himself. Because now I think that moving forward, this allows Mike Mayock to have a little bit more say in how this team is built, which we all know John Gruden, a.k.a. Chucky, was really just kind of had a stranglehold on everything in this organization, and a lot of stuff ran through him. Now Mike Mayock, I think, will be allowed to be a general manager and actually give his input and build this team the way that he sees fit. Okay. So I guess that is the one positive that could possibly come out of this. But the Raiders, just when it seemed like they were kind of getting their stuff together, they get a huge step back. It's 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But seeing John Gruden go, I think, is the best move. And I guess we have to wait with bated breath about everything else that's going to come out from these emails, because, there were thousands of emails. So the NFL isn't going to be able to hide all of them, right?
Yeah.
So moving on from that, I think it's time we go ahead and get into a topic that I think Malik will be pretty excited to talk about at the very least. Let's go ahead and get into this second quarter. Okay, so as we all know, the Atlanta Falcons decided to go and draft Kyle Pitts, 4th overall in this past draft. Many people thought that was a mistake, but the talent speaks for itself. Malik, you were one of them. I was. I think we all pretty much agree. We all pretty much are on the same. It's like, hey, Kyle Pitts is great. He's not changing this team, right? And to start the season off, I think none of us expected it to be this rough for Kyle Pitts starting off. Kyle Pitts basically has been a no-show these first couple weeks up until the game in London against the New York Jets. I want to ask, and Malik, we'll start with you. Is this a sign of things to come? Was this a misnomer? What is Kyle Pitts going to start looking like Kyle Pitts, or was this just kind of a one-off?
I think this is good momentum for sure. The past couple games, I could see if they were giving him the ball, if Matt Ryan was the offense was throwing the ball, he wasn't getting the ball, rarely getting any touches. So now, and let's just think about it. Calvin Ridley was not playing this past week, so somebody had to step up. We know Cordell Patterson has been doing good. He's been probably the MVP on the Falcons offense next to Matt Ryan. So who was going to be that next receiver? It had to be Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts he's supposed to be a unicorn, right? So let's use him. First of all, let's be lucky that the New York Jets defense is bad. So, of course, he was going to eat as well. But what I really noticed is, okay, why was he getting so many touches now? Because I feel like they put him in Calvin Ridley's spot. Since Calvin Ridley was going, they had to put somebody at their receiver. And we've seen through 4 or 5 games that they've moving Kyle Pitts everywhere. They're putting him in the slot. They're putting him outside. They're putting him on the line. Like, he's literally everywhere because he can do all those things. But when you're not using him and you're looking off to Calvin Ridley, who has struggled this season, if we're being honest, he has dropped a lot of passes. So you replace him with Kyle Pitts, who can actually catch the ball, who's known for catching the ball. It looks good. And if you look at the highlights from the last game, he was catching passes out the slot, catching passes on the outside, and he was lined up as a tight end as well. Like, he was really literally doing it all. So I hope this is the beginning for something new. I hope that they look at the film and see how they can use him to the best of their ability. But this is really like good to see. And I don't know what this means for Calvin Ridley because we still don't know why. They say it was a personal matter, but he looks good in that role. He looks good in that Calvin Ridley role. So we'll see how it goes.
I do agree. He finally did have a good game, and you see them moving him around a lot. And I think being in that more wide receiver role, using him more as a wide receiver than a traditional tight end is where he's going to be at his best. Zach, we're going to go to you. Why have they struggled to get him the ball? What do you see out of Kyle Pitts? Was this, a flash, or is this a sign of things to come?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I think a lot of it's the Jets defense. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm not gonna overreact yet, but I was one of those people that I was okay with them taking them fourth, even though I wanted them to take a quarterback. I think Matt Ryan's just been fading the last few years, and I don't like. I think they just need a guy that can increase the upside there, and Justin Fields was right there for the taking, and that's what I wanted them to do. But hey, we got Kyle Pitts now, and early in the year, you had Calvin Ridley, you had Gage there, and that you got to give a guy time to adapt. We can't expect heaven and earth to move from day one. So we're only looking at week 5 here, and hey, it does take a bad defense to get your confidence going. Who cares? I mean, I think this is the game that's going to get them going. I'm a firm believer that Kyle Pitts is going to be the truth going forward, and I don't know. I think Matt Ryan started really slow to start the year too, and I like his improvements so far. I think he's made a little adjustments, and his confidence is coming back a little bit too. But overall, I just don't have a lot of faith in Atlanta's defense, and I think the offense is going to have to carry him the rest of the way. So hopefully they can get the other receivers back, and Kyle Pitts can get open quite a bit more here. I mean, he definitely had the most targets. He had 10 targets last game. So I don't know. I think time will cure all, and I think Kyle's going to start rolling.
I like Zach's positive approach to it. It's give him time. He's young. Tight ends do sometimes struggle. We've seen, some guys. Prime example is another guy who's on that roster, Hayden Hurst. He has struggled. I think he's kind of starting to figure out his role in the NFL. George, how do we feel about Kyle Pitts right now? How do we feel about the Falcons offense, how they're using him?
Well, I have to agree with Zach. Let's first off look who they played. They played the Jets. And, the Jets defense, I don't want to say atrocious, but, obviously they're not a top-tier defense. And, Calvin really not playing on Sunday, Matt Ryan had to throw to somebody. So, yeah, he finally was able to go to Kyle Pitts. But in his whole career, what tight end has Matt Ryan really had? I mean, I know that he tried to experiment with Tony Gonzalez, but really that's been it. So I don't think Matt Ryan is used to playing with a tight end. So I think what happened, because Ridley wasn't playing, he went to Pitts more because they moved him around. Like Malik said, they put him in the Calvin Ridley position. Ridley comes back, I think we're going to see him going back to 4 or 5 catches a game. Matt Ryan doesn't know how to use a tight end. And this offense is going to continue to struggle. And I agree. I think Pitts was drafted a little too early. I thought for sure Atlanta was going to take a quarterback because I think Matt Ryan is on the last stages of his career, and they need to think, down the road who's going to be our heir apparent. And to me, it was a mistake to draft Kyle Pitts. I do think he's a first-round talent, but I didn't think he was a top 5 talent. And it does take some time to adjust. Obviously, the defenses are a lot more complicated than what he saw in college. So he is struggling with that. But that being said, he's a great talent, but he's going to continue to struggle, especially when Calvin Ridley comes back. The number of targets are going to decrease. Atlanta hasn't figured out how to quite use him when Matt Ryan has his full complement on offense. And until they figure that out, he's going to have, I think, a less than expected type of season for his rookie year.
And it's very interesting that you bring up the point about Matt Ryan, because I think one of the things that so many people thought when Kyle Pitts did go to Atlanta was how well Arthur Smith used tight ends in Tennessee. When he was offensive coordinator there, you had, guys like Delaney Walker and stuff like that. And it's been interesting seeing Kyle Pitts, for all of his talent, struggle so much in an offense that I think everyone assumed features tight ends a lot. And I think that point about Matt Ryan not really having, outside of Tony Gonzalez towards the end of his career, Matt Ryan not really having to ever look towards the tight end or really use tight ends is a very good point. But with that being said, we're at the halfway point here. We're going to give the guys a quick little water break here, get everyone a chance to hydrate, whatnot. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back. Thank you all. You are watching No Huddle Necessary for Nuts and Bolts Sports. We'll be back in a second.
The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com. Get yours today.
Want you to see everything, want you to see all of the lights. I tried to tell you, but all I could say
Alrighty, and we are back from a quick commercial break there, showing you guys some of the other shows we got here at the Nuts and Bolts Sports Network. Make sure you check them all out. Gonna have some basketball stuff coming out soon too. Can't wait for that as the season's getting started up. So make sure you guys check out everything that we're bringing out here, okay? Now, with all that being said, let's get into the third quarter. And now it's time for me to be a little self-serving. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I promise I'm not going to do this every week. I promise this isn't going to become a Steelers show. But there was an interesting report by Jason Glazer who came out and basically said that, he's heard rumblings and heard from Mike Tomlin that the Pittsburgh Steelers next year, obviously it's pretty much well known that this is going to be Ben Roethlisberger's last year in Pittsburgh, that he's probably going to retire at the end of the season. A very interesting note came out, though, from Glazer that Mike Tomlin is going to be looking for a veteran quarterback next season. He doesn't want to draft someone. He doesn't want to bring in a young person. He wants a veteran quarterback to hold the fort down, maybe be a bridge quarterback for a year or two. So with that being said, who should the Steelers be looking at? There's a couple guys out there. Who should the Steelers be looking at to bring in to be that bridge quarterback? Zach, we'll start with you.
I got your answer. Free my soul, please. Been waiting for this moment. Take Kirk Cousins off my hands. I need a new life in Minnesota here. I doubt it. I don't think there's any chance of that happening because I think the Vikings are going to make the playoffs and probably lose in the first, or if we get lucky, we might win a game. But the guy I have in mind, I think would be a perfect fit, and I think he'd be doing better than Ben Roethlisberger right now, is Jimmy Garoppolo. As Trey Lance comes in, and I really believe in Trey there, and I think he's going to dominate. Jimmy Garoppolo still can get the job done. I think he's very adequate, and I think it'd be a great option.
So it's funny you mentioned Jimmy because he's a name that I haven't heard a lot of people mention before, but he is one that I've thought of myself. And I'm not. This is just me being a fan. I'm not mad at the Garoppolo if we were to bring him in for a year or two, because when you look at what he brings to the 49ers, like, it's really just a problem of health. Now, putting him behind our current offensive line may be a problem because our offensive line hasn't been that good. Ben's been getting hit a lot. So I don't know. Like I said, Jimmy has his injury histories, but when Jimmy plays, the 49ers win. So I do think that he's definitely going to be someone who's out there and definitely will be an option for us. Malik.
Anybody can hit those receivers, though. Let's be honest.
That's true. Malik, how about you? Who do the Steelers need to bring in?
Man, so I actually looked at the free agent market to see who could come in. And I mean, it's funny because Ben was at the top. And then after that was Teddy Bridgewater, Taysom Hill, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Andy Dalton, and a whole bunch of other guys where I was like, there's no way that Mike Tomlin will want any of these guys. So if we're going off of like just signing a free agent, I'm gonna say Teddy Bridgewater. I'll say Teddy Bridgewater. I'd say he's definitely a vet, and we've seen what he's doing in Denver right now. Like, he's controlling the offense, doing a good job. I think he'd be a good player for them. But if it's possible, and I know I'm going back to my Falcons ties, I think Matt Ryan would be a good person to put in that offense, because and I know he's still on contract. So I don't know if there's any way that it could happen. I think it could happen, but the situation that Matt Ryan is in right now in Atlanta, it doesn't fit his timeline. The Falcons are rebuilding. Like, I know they're winning right now and they have a soft schedule, but this team looks like a team that is starting from the bottom and they're trying to make their way back up in the next couple of years. They don't have the talent right now to compete. So, and Matt Ryan has been playing good these past couple of games. Even when he threw 4 touchdowns, last week against the Washington football team, and they still lost. And people still blaming him for some reason. But I'm saying, you put him on a team that actually has a defense. You put Matt Ryan on a team that has a defense and a team that already has a up-and-coming running back. Najee Harris has looked good. And then you put him with Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Juju, all those guys. I think you got a solid team right there. Matt Ryan hasn't shown me as much that he's slowing down, really. Like, his deep ball doesn't look as polished as it used to be, but I think he can get the job done with the Steelers offense.
So Malik, you're not slick. I see what you're trying to do here. You're trying to pass Matt Ryan off to us. Same way Zach was trying to pass Kirk Cousins off to us. We're not interested in Matt Ryan. Okay. We're not interested in Matt Ryan. We're not interested in him. We're not interested in his contract. Well done. Live in infamy that you all did not take Justin Fields number 4. Live with it. Understand that you guys screwed the pooch. It's going to stay that way. Matt Ryan is comfortable here in Atlanta. Granted, I do think Matt Ryan gets way more flack than he actually should. I think people don't understand how good Matt Ryan is and still is. And I think too many people think that he's the problem on that team when he definitely is not. But he's not our savior. George, maybe you can give a better answer than Malik did.
Well, the one name that popped into my head, and it depends how much you really believe what the perceived drama was during the offseason. I'm going to say they can try to see if they make a run for Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson would be tremendous in that offense, if especially with Najee Harris at running back and the receiving core that Pittsburgh has. And granted, the offensive line, I know it's new and they're still a work in progress, so there is protection issues. but I think Russell Wilson's scrambling ability really works in Pittsburgh. And I think he's a blue collar type of player. The Steeler fans would get behind him 100%, in my opinion. I think he would be a tremendous fit there. Now, whether or not Seattle would be looking to move him, I don't know. But if they could, I would. If I was Pittsburgh, I would make a seriously consider making a run at him. I think he would be tremendous in Pittsburgh.
Woo. Now you see, that's an answer. That
Good luck.
But no, I do. Now, granted, we were not on Russell Wilson's list that came out. That was very weird. His whole list of, hey, I wouldn't cheat on my wife, but if I would cheat on my wife, here's 5 people I would do it with, right? Like, we weren't on that list, but if we could make that happen, I would absolutely love it. I do think it's interesting that no one said Aaron Rodgers' name. That has kind of been a thing going around especially after the Packers and the Steelers played, and everyone was kind of making a whole lot out of Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers basically flirting with each other on the field when they were looking at each other. Does anyone feel that that's a real possibility?
I just look at Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson's personalities, and I think they're coastal boys. I mean, they're both married to, big-time women. So I just don't see him wanting to live in Pittsburgh. Sorry, George. I just don't see it. I can't think of any other vets out there really either that have rookies backing them up or what have you. So I think you're stuck with either Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins, Don.
Oh, goodness. Hopefully not. George, Malik, you guys.
I don't know. There is that possibility with Aaron Rodgers. He's not happy in Green Bay. Everybody knows that. I think he fits into the type of player Pittsburgh looks for. He's obviously a lot more mobile than Big Ben is right now, and he's used to having issues with some protection sometimes. And the weather wouldn't be an issue for him. Obviously, playing in Lambeau Field in the winter, so going into Pittsburgh in wintertime, it's not going to be a problem. I'm just more wondering could he take the physical defenses he would face in that division with Cleveland and Baltimore, and Cincinnati's defense is coming up.
Yeah, he's
now.
A pansy.
Yeah, so could he handle that type of hitting that he would face year in and year out if he was in Pittsburgh? Russell Wilson's kind of used to it. That's the reason I beat him up. The Rams put a beating on him. San Francisco's getting to him. And I think Arizona's going to get to him. Well, obviously he's out for at least 4 weeks, but I think Arizona's defense this year would get to him. So he's already used to that. And, Aaron Rodgers, he's not used to that kind of hitting.
I love it. Yeah, he can't handle Everson Griffin.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Aaron Rodgers is used to it. I mean, they play the Bears, who have had a good defense the past few years, and the Vikings had a good defense as well. So I think he's used to it. I think he can definitely, and I think between him and Russell, I think Aaron is the best, is honestly like the more realistic one because of just everything that had went on before he came back this season and was like, yeah, I'm all in for the team or whatnot. So I think Aaron Rodgers, man, like I don't see him slowing down at all. Like it's insane. Like I know he had that bad game against the Saints, and everybody was like, "Dang, is this the end?" But you saw what he did the next week. So I'm never gonna count on Aaron Rodgers, just like I don't never count out Tom Brady. But at the same time, Aaron Rodgers is just. I think he'll fit good with that offense as well, like with the running game and with the receivers they have. Like he is the orchestrator of the offense. Like he can do anything. I think he can fit well with them.
Man, no disrespect to the NFC North defenses, but they are not as physical as the AFC North. Baltimore. We know what Baltimore is, and Cleveland this year is one of the most physical teams I've seen play this season. And like I said, Cincinnati's defense is coming up. Minnesota's defense is good, but they're not as physical as he's going to see in the AFC North.
Yeah, and I think even though I am a fan, I think realistically, I'm not allowing myself to fall into the Aaron Rodgers trap because in my mind, he's a foregone conclusion to go to Denver next year. That to me is the location for him.
I said
Russell
Teddy
Wilson.
Bridgewater.
So I wouldn't be mad at Teddy. I think Teddy is interesting, but I do think that the Steelers also one of the things that I don't think also one of the things that I don't think that the Steelers necessarily want someone like Wilson or Rodgers is because the cap hit that it would have. The Steelers do have a lot of cap room next year, but we also have players that we need to sign. We need to figure out if we're going to give Juju an extension. We just paid TJ Watt and made him the highest paid player highest paid defensive player in the NFL. Minkah Fitzpatrick is due for a contract. I think they don't want someone who's going to come in and eat up, 70% of that salary cap that they have.
Couple others. What about Jacoby Brissett, Drew Lock, Geno Smith? Just for holdovers till you get a good draft pick in there.
Jacoby's lucky he has a job.
Okay, hold on. I like Jacoby Brissett. I think Jacoby Brissett is. I think Jacoby is tremendous as a backup. I think he's the best backup quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, and you see, as a backup, yes, but as a starter, no.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably lean more towards Geno Smith over Jacoby as a starter, as a stopgap.
Geno did look
What
good.
about
I like
Fitzpatrick?
Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock deserves another shot.
I do think Drew is interesting, right? Because I feel like Denver never really went full in on giving him an opportunity to be the starter. Like they flirted with it and it was like, we kind of, but then we I feel like they got caught in a midpoint with him.
I'm kind of surprised no one's even mentioned Cam Newton.
I mean, he doesn't even have a job. It's hard.
Unfortunately, I think the jury is out on Cam, and that even in his best days, even when he was younger and he was healthy, the best thing Cam did for you was his physical running. And now at this point in his career, being the age that he is, taking the hits that he has, he's kind of lost that. And so now we have a quarterback who has been dealing with injuries the past couple of years. The best thing you do is still run the ball, but you don't do it as effectively as you used to. And you're not necessarily accurate throwing the ball either. It's just a bad mix. Also,
I agree.
Behind a bad offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the moment. I'll say my fever dream, and then we can move on to the fourth quarter. And now it might take a hit. I don't know if this is a good thing for my fever dream. I've been trying to what's the word, manifest this. And I've been hoping that the Raiders make the horrible decision of moving on from Derek Carr, seeing as how his contract is going to be coming up soon, because I would love to have Derek Carr in Pittsburgh. My hope was always that John Gruden would make the ultimate John Gruden move, because his favorite quarterback is his next quarterback. And I was hoping he was going to make the ultimate move of moving on from Derek Carr at the end of this season, and then we'd be able to get him. I don't know if that's still a possibility now.
Well, you do know that this is his last season of guaranteed money on that contract.
Mm-hmm.
So,
exactly.
New coach, it's possible, a new GM coming in with the Raiders, they may want to move on from Carr.
Listen, the biggest thing that I was happy about was I'm happy that we are not looking at any of the quarterbacks that are coming up in this draft, because I don't think any of them are going to be game changers. I honestly don't think there's any of them that are really worth taking in the first 2 rounds, if we're being completely honest. But we've spent enough time talking about the Steelers. I said we weren't going to turn this into a Steelers show. Go ahead, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the best part of the show. Throw up your 4s, because it's time for the fourth quarter. Okay, so we've had a pretty heavy show. I try to I like to keep things lighthearted here, right? I like to have fun. So, what is better than the age-old question, are kickers football players? Because if you are someone who doesn't think so, it was a great week for you. How great of a week? Well, an NFL record 13 missed extra points occurred this past week. Also, can I mention everyone, when a couple years ago, when they decided to move the extra point back, everyone was just like, oh, this isn't going to have any type of effect. How wrong do you feel now? Because I feel like since they moved it back 10 or 15 yards, whatever it was, I feel like I've seen way more missed extra points the last like 2 years than I have in my entire lifetime prior. But we had 13 missed extra points. We had a game with the Packers and the Bengals that saw 4 straight missed field goals. Mason Crosby was finally able to hit one at the end of overtime to give the Packers the win. We saw on Monday night, Lamar Jackson leads the Baltimore Ravens down the field. They score touchdown, get the 2-point conversion. Carson Wentz does a tremendous job getting his guys into field goal range, and Rodrigo Blankenship misses the field goal. They go to overtime. Lamar Jackson scores a touchdown on the very opening drive of overtime to win the game. So, George, we're going to start with you. Are kickers football players?
You know, every time I hear people talk about kickers, it reminds me of an old NFL film segment with Deacon Jones. He goes, you brought me all the way out to Philadelphia to ask about a kicker. And you could just see the anger in his face, and it cracks me up every time I see it. But I'm going to say, yeah, they are football players. They're specialty players because, let's face it, Tom Brady cannot kick a field goal. He cannot kick it 50 yards to win a game. And, you know, a lot of people say they're not football players, but how many games are decided on their leg, whether or not they can hit that kick? So, yeah, they are football players. They're just specialty players. And I think all football players are specialty players. Receivers, that's their specialty. A running back, that's their specialty. Offensive, defensive line, that's their specialty. So, yeah, they are players, even though they don't get the respect I think they deserve until they either make that kick to win a game or they're going to be hung up by the Raptors if they miss a kick that costs their team the game. So I find it funny, but yeah, they are football players. They're doing a job that not many people can do.
Okay. George is showing some love. Patrick McAfee would appreciate that. It was not a good week for the brand, as he likes to say. Malik, are kickers football players?
I definitely think they're football players. Like I think we should just get that. They're football players for sure. Like they put on the helmet, they put on the same stuff that all these other football players put on. I think the real question we should be asking is, are they athletes? Are they really athletes? I mean, really all they're doing is kicking it. I mean, and I know it takes accuracy, it takes leg strength, but and I know George said that not many people can kick, but I've seen non-kickers kick. I've seen Odell Beckham kick a field goal, and I've seen dudes on YouTube kick field goals, like punting the football. Like I've seen they look like they can do it. I don't know as far as like if they can do any other football related things, but as far as kicking, they can kick a foot. I think not a lot of people can say that they could, run a legit route or like throw a bomb downfield with their arm. But I think it's a lot of people that can say that they could probably kick a field goal. I think they have a better chance of kicking the field goal than doing those other two things. So I think instead of asking on our football players, we should be asking on our athletes. And I'm not sure about that.
Well, Malik, those YouTube videos, guys are kicking field goals. That's one thing. Do it in front of 70,000 people with a swirling wind.
There it is.
That's what I want to see. Yeah, I kicked a 35-yard field goal when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, no problem.
Damn.
Put me at the Coliseum or put me at SoFi. Well, not SoFi, it's a dome. Put me at Soldier Field with that wind blowing. 70,000 people cheering for you to either make it or no. I'm sorry. Anyone, those guys on YouTube would choke and probably kick the snapper in the back.
Listen, I will say this as someone who played a little bit of football and has tried to kick a field goal before. It is much easier to throw a ball, to catch a ball, to run the ball than it is to kick a field goal. Zach, we now pass the question on to you. Are kickers football players?
Fuck no. I think you did this just to bury me. I think you just brought this question in here when you knew I was coming on. Kickers, one, are not real people, so how can they be football players? As much as I respect Pat McAfee, I don't look at him as a football player or kicker or human until he got out of the football league. So as a Minnesota Vikings fan, these feelings have arrived after years and years of night tremors and terrors. And Gary Anderson, Blair Walsh, these guys can all rot. And yeah, I'll never appreciate or respect a kicker until they win me a Super Bowl. So yeah, I think we'd have a few of them, but that's the God's honest truth. And I don't think they should even be in football. I think it should be always going for two. I have a strong stance on that forever. So I'm all for petitioning kickers, get them the hell out of here.
Zach, you haven't let go of 1998 yet, have you?
Never.
He's so jaded, and I get it. I understand.
2004 or 2020.
I get it. Oh man.
Or last
Zach,
week, for God's sakes.
That was awesome.
That was hilarious. Oh
That
my
was
god.
great.
I
Listen.
hate those people.
I listen. I get it. Trust me. Listen, I went through this very briefly, right? So as a Steeler fan, again, turning this into a Steeler show, I have to stop doing that. We had Jeff Reed for a long time, and he was basically automatic. And then Jeff Reed retired, and we had Sean Sweesham, for a little bit. Then he tore his ACL in a preseason game, never to be seen of again. And then we had, what was his name? It was the kicker down in Jacksonville. I think Josh
Myers?
Lambo.
Brown,
Lambo,
right?
yep. Lambo. It was.
Lambo, I think it was. He was there in Jacksonville for a very long time and then came up to Pittsburgh and absolutely stunk up the joint. And I remember being viciously angry watching football games every single time he came out, because for whatever reason, he was accurate when he was down in Jacksonville. He was like the best kicker in Jacksonville history. Came up to Pittsburgh and started playing in games that actually mattered and just caught the yips and was done for. Thank God we have Boswell now. But Zach, I feel your pain. Granted,
Ryan
it hasn't cost
Longwell,
me.
Dan Bailey, two all-time
relate.
goats.
I think
They
people,
found themselves.
if you get some old school football fans, you talk about a kicker, and the image that pops into my head, you're Premian in Super Bowl VII against Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's that's a kicker. That's what they see.
Yep. Hey, listen, man. Kickers, Zach, I loved your tenacity. I loved the passion behind it. I do disagree with you. I think kickers are football players.
Can't believe he did this.
I think his opinion is Viking kickers aren't football players.
There it is. Listen,
They're the
I was gonna
reasons I have trust issues with my wife and everybody else in this world is kickers. I put everything back on kickers.
It all comes back. It all comes back to kickers.
Why don't you trust
Alrighty.
me, kickers?
Alrighty. Well, I think that is a great place to end it. But before we end it, guys, we have to pick a winner. We have to announce a winner. So let's go ahead. It's that time of the show. Alrighty, so as the great movie Talladega Nights once said, if you ain't first, you're last. So for those of you who get sent to the back first, it doesn't mean that you were in last place. It just means you weren't in first. And so today we are going to send Mr. Malik to the back first. Does not mean you were last. It just means you weren't in first place. Thank you so much for hanging on with us. We're going to send you to the back. Don't go anywhere, though. We're going to bring you back on in a little bit. And then there were two. George, you were great tonight. Zach, you were great tonight. I knew, Zach, that I knew there was a reason why I was really honing in on you, and I just kept coming back to you to bring you on the show. I knew you were going to be great. I knew you were going to be great. But with that being said, not great enough. The W is going to go to Mr.
Kickers,
Lopez
bro.
tonight.
Kickers.
It all comes back to kickers. It all comes back to kickers. Mr. Lopez, congrats on the win. You are awarded the FaceTime. You get a little bit of time to speak about whatever it is that you want across any sport, genre, whatever. This is your moment. Enjoy it, sir. You deserve it.
Okay, being from Los Angeles, I do have to bring this up tomorrow. Game 5 NLDS, Los Angeles Dodgers in San Francisco taking on the Giants. It's the two best teams in Major League Baseball. Winner take all to advance to the League Championship Series against the Atlanta Braves. It's going to be a tremendous game. Logan Webb for the Giants going against 20-game winner Julio Urias for the Dodgers. I am excited. I'm nervous. I'm hoping to see the Dodgers advance, take on Atlanta in a rematch from last year's LCS. It's going to be a tremendous game. All you Dodger fans, Giant fans, fasten your seatbelts because it's going to be a crazy game. Enjoy it. I wish both teams the best of luck. Even though I hate the Giants, they've had a tremendous season, so there is some respect for that. And I'm looking forward to one tremendous game tomorrow night.
All right, make sure you all check that out. Once again, fellas, thank you all so much for coming on. You guys were amazing. This is probably one of my favorite episodes that I've done. I like the different personalities we had tonight. I think it was a good energy. So again, I want to thank you all so much. Mr. Lopez, go ahead and let the people know where they can find you, what you got going on, all that good stuff.
Oh, you guys can find me on Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle right here, at the other G Lopez. I should have changed it to the real George Lopez, but I'll give that comedian some, I'll give him a little respect. I'll let him keep using my name. So looking for me at Nuts and Bolts Sports. I'll be having another article coming up very soon. More than likely it's going to be, I just posted one about the LA Rams, and after 4 weeks, Matt Stafford's been doing with the Rams. So my next one should either be about the Lakers, or you should be seeing another one coming up about the Dodger Giants series.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. Make sure you all check out those articles that are dropping there. And our winner, we say goodbye to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Make sure you guys hang around a little bit afterwards, though, because we're going to probably talk about some more stuff afterwards.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All righty. Zach, you were great tonight, man. Loved having you on. Like I said, please let the people know where they can find you, where they can follow you, everything you got going on. I know you were stepping out of your realm here, coming and talking about football. You're more of a basketball guy, so I really appreciate it.
No, I love it. I follow football pretty closely. I hope it didn't sound like too much of an idiot, but I had a great time. Love the format. Always down to talk fantasy football, as I'm a pretty big diehard there. 5-0 in one league, knock on wood. But with that said, you can find me and my basketball content mainly on Twitter. My handle's right below there. But I got a podcast with Ball is Life. It's called the Noble and Roosh Show, and that's ROOSH. We get big-time NBA players, owners, coaches, you name it, anybody and everybody around the league. Our last episode, we had Joy Taylor, and we actually did speak on quite a bit of football. So please check that out. Rate, review, subscribe. Really appreciate you having me on, Dominic.
Zach, it was my pleasure. Like I said, you were awesome. Thank you so much for being on. Malik, where can people find you? Almost got another W. You were close. So close.
Man, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at _Malik ATL. I do writing for SB Nation for the Atlanta Hawks, Peachtree Hoops. You can find them at Peachtree Hoops. The basketball season is wrapping up, so you guys will be seeing a lot of work for me this season. And I just started my YouTube channel, guys, so please subscribe to that. It's under my name, Malik Brown. I'll be doing NBA videos, just doing some talking, gaming videos, all of that. And also have another podcast with my co-host, Rashad Milligan, over at Atlanta Sports Unlimited. Make sure you subscribe to that channel as well, and we'll be doing Hawks podcasts every week. Thank you again for having me on, Don.
Absolutely. And Malik's too scared to post what would happen if he and I were to play 2K on his gaming channel.
Man, he lying, man.
But we're going to say goodbye to him. Listen, we'll set it up. Off air.
That's cool. That's cool.
Thank you for joining, Malik, and thank you all for watching. This has been No Huddle Necessary. Like I said, shout out to each and every one of our guests. Make sure you all check out all of the content that they're pumping out because all of it is fantastic. Shout out to Nuts and Bolts Sports, the crew, everyone, and I guess sadly we have to say goodnight. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace.